Special casting preview starting in 10. Hello and welcome to a special side part NEVERS podcast. We were going to wait for next week, but we just couldn't keep a hold of our hype because today we got 12, not 1, not 5, but freaking 12 casting announcements, and they're all amazing. So we're gonna skip all pretense. We're gonna stop pretending we're anything other than fans right now and just jump straight into the amazing meaty goodness of these castings. First off, and a surprise to absolutely no one, especially the hosts of this podcast, who've mentioned her name about 3 times, Olivia Williams has been cast in the NEVERS. Yes! And
Yay.
It sounds like she's got an awesome role.
Yay!
Olivia will be playing Lavinia Bidlow, a rich lady of means who owns an orphanage where the touched happen to live. This includes Amalia and many of her friends. Described as stern, strong-willed and incredibly smart, I'm going to take a wild guess here and say she'll be playing the sort of Giles mentor type character of the show. Our fans may recognise her name, Olivia Williams, because she was most known to us Whedonites as Adele DeWitt from Dollhouse. She also was recently in Counterpart alongside the amazing J.K. Simmons, who I hope she drags onto this show. So, Gina, are you as hyped as I am right now?
Okay, so I mentioned this in previous podcast episodes, but unfortunately, I haven't finished Dollhouse. However, I remember watching, I think I watched like the half of the first season, and I don't know why, and I've never said this about anyone else in the Whedonverse when it comes to acting, but I always told my sister and my friend Josh, Olivia Williams is phenomenal, and she needs to work with Joss Whedon again. I don't know why I said that. Because I feel that way about everybody, but her specifically, I don't know if it's because I wanted the entire world to know who she is, and I knew he was going into like Avengers stuff, but like, I am so happy because she's amazing, and anyone who hasn't seen Dollhouse, A, will hopefully watch it now, but B, yeah, the whole world needs to know who she is, so.
They really, really do, and I think this will hopefully shoot her to stardom when everyone will understand how amazing she is.
Yes.
And so what are your thoughts on the actual character?
Yeah, a thing that I love about Joss's worlds and his shows is that there's usually a central location where everyone can kind of group together and either try to like figure out how to defeat the big bad or try to figure out the mystery or whatever's going on. Even in Avengers, there was like, you know, the helicarrier, right? So I love this idea that there's an orphanage. So I'm almost imagining this like mansion or something, or a building.
Definitely.
You know, and that's so cool.
Yeah. And the fact that she's described as like a woman of means, very rich. I'm just thinking this huge, imposing, quite kind of Tim Burton-esque Wayne Manor, big steeple spikes, gate, gargoyles,
Yes.
the whole 9 yards. It's gonna be amazing.
It kind of reminds me of the X Mansion a little bit. But
Exactly, yeah.
But there's something really cool about it being like a house with like rooms and like, I don't know, maybe that's another reason why I love the X-Men so much. Like if a character's having a problem and they're locked in their room or something, all the characters have to try to figure out a way in. Like there's just so much drama you could even have just in that location. And I'm sure there's not going to be like episodes just involved there. Maybe there will be, but I just love, I don't know, I love a house where everyone lives. That's just so, there's going to be just so much conflict just in that.
I wouldn't be surprised if the orphanage was used as their home base in the same way that kind of the library in Buffy
Yes.
or the hotel in
Yes.
Angel was used. But briefly, just stop in, get the plan, go out. But then I can almost tell now putting money on it, there's going to be at least one episode 100% based inside the orphanage, and it's going to be amazing.
Yes, hopefully
it's going to be a deep, character-driven episode that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, hopefully it's the bottle episode where like they can't leave for whatever reason, you know?
Yes,
that'd be awesome.
Hopefully, yeah, like go really lean into the idea and have like in a massive storm or something.
Yes. But that'd be really cool.
One thing they tried to sneak it past us here. Maybe I just missed it before, but I believe this is the first reference to the time we've actually been given a name for the people within the show that have powers. We've been referring to them up until now as the Nevers because, I mean, that's the title. But now we have the official name, the Touched.
Yes.
Very creepy, very cool. Excellent choice.
Yes, and in a weird way, I kind of love that they have two names now, in a way. Like, are they referred to the Nevers within themselves, or are they just the Touched? Like, it's actually really fascinating that we have two names.
I think it's going to be a bit like kind of Mutants versus X-Men, to use that, the Marvel reference we used earlier. I have a feeling the Nevers is going to be the specific group. Amalia True and her crew will be the Nevers. But then the Touched is a generalized term for people with powers.
Yeah, I love that.
What this says to me, plus a few of the later characters, is there's going to be people with powers that aren't members of the group. Right. So we get evil-powered people. Yes.
Oh, so cool. and we're just
interesting to note.
We're just in the first description, guys.
I know. There's 11 more to come. You lucky people. Interesting to note, Olivia Williams, fantastic. Breached a bit out of character for Joss. The only Whedon alumni in the announced cast.
Yeah.
From here on in, we are entering uncharted territory. Unless you've watched English TV in the past 10 years, in which case you will recognise quite a few of the names on this list. But for a Whedon fan, these are all new names. And jumping into that first... Well, this one's not quite new. Anyone that's been to our website, and I've seen the read count, quite a few of you have, will recognise this next name. James Norton. We announced him yesterday because we're just that cool.
Yep.
But now we have actual details. He will be playing Hugo Swan, described as a pansexual posh boy whose charm has about 5 years left on its lease. He runs a club with a side business in blackmail. Yes! He's apparently obsessed with the Touched, which sounds a little bit gross when I say it just like that, but not how I meant it. He's obsessed with powered people. Yeah, I can see that going very badly. An obsession with powered people, and you make your business through blackmail. Not sure he's going to survive season 1.
But I love it, because is he a villain? Is he kind of a villain and a hero? Is he kind of tiptoeing that line, and he has to decide which way to go? Either one.
I have a distinct suspicion the line between hero and villain is going to be rather blurred in this particular show. Obviously, Amalia and her friends will be heroes. There's a few people further down the thing who are quite clearly villains. But there's going to be a large middle ground of people that are just sort of trying to get by, and I have a distinct suspicion he's one of them. Just to jump briefly, James Norton, you may recognise him. He was in Grantchester recently, as well as McMafia, and will soon be in the upcoming adaptation of Little Women.
Oh, nice.
But more importantly, for everyone else, he was the voice of Cole in Dragon Age Inquisition, in which he was brilliant, and the game was awesome, despite what everyone says. I loved it.
He was also in War and Peace, which I've always wanted to watch because it also stars Paul Dano and Lily James, and I love them. And I only wanted to watch it for them, but he's apparently the other main character, so now I am definitely giving that a watch.
Yeah, I heard very good things about that, but just it kind of slipped my list, and I have no idea why.
Right.
I think I missed the first episode, and it wasn't on catch-up yet. And by the time I remembered to watch it on catch-up, I'd forgotten that it was on. So but yeah, now that I know I'm going to be seeing him quite a lot quite soon, I will definitely catch up on that.
Amazing. And then I have to mention this part of his description: a pansexual Posh boy. Pansexual. Like, we talked about this in a previous episode, or a few times actually, how there needs to be more representation on television, and hopefully the Nevers can give that to us. And something that's interesting about Joss Whedon's work that always kind of made me think is there's been like lesbian characters, but not a lot of out men that like men. You know? And not that it bothered me.
You mention it.
Right. And it didn't bother me too much. It just didn't feel like there was a balance. So the fact that there's a man who also likes men right off the bat is pretty cool.
Excellent point. I'm glad he's done that then.
Right.
And the fact he's just jumped right into the deep end and gone for pansexual.
Yes.
Just skip everything else. Give me all of the everything. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so which is interesting. Like, since this is a sci-fi show, will there be aliens that he likes? Like, it's limitless, and again,
go a bit Captain Jack on the whole situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think there needs to be more representation of different types of sexuality, and pansexual is still such a phrase that I feel like some people don't even know what it is. So it's actually very inspiring to see that on all these articles today, you know?
I think two kind of identities that aren't mentioned enough are pansexual and asexual.
Yes.
I'm quite glad Hugo Swan will be pansexual, and one of my favorite TV shows ever, BoJack Horseman.
Yes, oh my god, BoJack, yes, sorry.
had an amazing arc about Todd realising he was asexual. I thought was quite well done until the last season when it got a bit silly.
That was a silly episode, but I still love it.
It got it out there, which is like credit where it's due.
Yes.
So I'm glad that Joss is then covering the almost exact opposite angle.
Which is important.
With a pansexual character. It is. Representation is important.
Yes.
Okay, so I am very excited to see where they go with that character. Next up is Tom Reilly, who is playing Augustus Augie Bidlow. If they say it's pronounced Augie, I am going to be very annoyed.
Oh my god, hilarious.
Described as a sweet, disarming nerd and the younger brother of Lavinia, the orphanage owner. He is... I'm getting very Xander vibes from him. Just a description of a sweet, disarming nerd. And also apparently he's best friends with Norton's character, Hugo. He finds the touched unnerving, but is drawn to them due to his infatuation with Penance Adair, who we'll be meeting later. He's best known for being in Da Vinci's Demons, which is a show I really, really wanted to watch, but just couldn't seem to find it legally anywhere in Britain. He also had one very notable appearance during Capaldi's Doctor Who era, where he played Robin of Locksley in quite possibly one of the worst episodes of Doctor Who ever, Robots of Sherwood, which was an absolute car crash of an episode.
Ooh.
But he was great in it. He was a very believable, dashing, swashbuckly Robin. So it's not his fault that the writing for that season was dreadful. just terrible.
Was that?
But that's a story for another time.
Was that Stephen Moffat?
He was great. So
was that his last season, yes. Stephen Moffat?
Either his last or his penultimate.
Okay.
Either way, it was about 2 seasons longer than he should have stayed.
Right.
Yeah, not a Moffat fan. Yeah, so I think he's going to be definitely. I can see him being the kind of audience insert character.
Yes, definitely.
Like sweet, disarming nerd probably describes a good 60% of Whedon's viewer base.
Yes.
Not particularly. He finds everything he's surrounded by a bit unnerving, a bit unsettling, but he's drawn in constantly to all this nonsense by his friends and his obsession with the lady he's, obsessed with.
And so I apologize because this could go completely the opposite way, but when I found out he's also best friends with Hugo, and Hugo could like anybody, I'm hoping for maybe like a small little love triangle between him and Miss Adair and Hugo, but again, that could be totally me just reading way too much into it. But hey,
That is a very Whedon thing to do, though.
Right?
Like, Augie's the kind of, oh, I like her so much, but I don't want to do anything. And then Hugo's the one just like, hey there, sexy. Want to go do something naughty?
Right?
And then he's all like, oh, why can't I be like that?
And Hugo could like both of them, which is awesome.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But then, I've got to say, it's one thing Whedon does fall back on quite a lot, and it is just a plot arc which does annoy me quite a lot. The whole kind of, oh, we've been friends since childhood, but I'm secretly in love with you.
Right.
It's so played out. I kind of hope they don't take that route, just because it's been done so many times now.
To be fair, maybe Hugo and Augie like weren't friends when they were kids. Maybe they just met recently. You know?
Yeah, but splitting hairs.
Again,
yeah,
I could be totally off, and this is just wishful thinking. But
I mean, I can definitely see some kind of love triangle occurring between sort of at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 of the characters.
Right.
Just because, I mean, it is an easy way to fill up screen time. So I've got to say, one of the almost note perfect love triangles in fiction history was the one from Angel.
Yes.
Gunn, Fred,
yes.
and Wesley.
Oh.
So brilliantly done.
So good.
And then, speaking of potential members of love triangles, the next character on the list, Anne Skelly. Great name. She will be playing Penance Adair. Even cooler name.
Right.
Best friend of Amalia True, the main character we met a very long time ago, and the first recruit to the Nevers, a devout yet heretically progressive Irish girl. Penance has a genius for invention. So I'm guessing she'll be our tech expert, sort of Hayley-style character that I mentioned in the second blog. Anne Skelly has been in Vikings recently, which is an awesome show, and she was great in it. Doesn't have as large a portfolio as some of the other actors in this show, but what she lacks in quantity, she more than makes up for in quality. So I have a distinct suspicion she is going to be one of the standout stars in the show.
Yeah. I already love her character as well. Some of the other description is like, she's delighted by her power and her default is love and acceptance, but she's firm in her moral sense and will be guided by what's right over what's expedient every time. First of
That's
all,
a great line.
Yeah, I love these character descriptions. Like, usually when new shows are announced, they either just announce the cast or they give like a 1-sentence description, but you can already tell all of these characters are so complex and like we already know their values and what they're good at, and that's incredible.
Just the fact that off reading like a paragraph on each one, we're always like, oh yeah, I like that one. They're going to be really friends with this person. And I really like this person. I think they're going to be my favourite. Like, we know nothing of these characters, yet they already feel like fully fleshed out characters. They don't feel like paragraph descriptions. They feel like people.
Exactly.
And that's without even seeing them moving. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane. And yeah, I don't know why. Well, I guess I do know why, but I love when women are good at techie kind of stuff. So I love that she's an inventor. So that's one way she's definitely going to help this group.
I'm very much hoping we get giant steampunk monstrosities.
Yes.
Because I love them. I love them so much.
Yes.
It has to happen. I also really like the what's the last line in her description, that she chooses what's right over what's expedient. I have a distinct suspicion that's going to cause some arguments later on with a few of the characters a little bit down the line, and that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I could totally be wrong, but it seems like she's very different than Amalia, so they might clash in that sense.
I think it's going to be one of those kind of like they'll be each one of their little kind of separate circles. Be like, but why are you friends with that person?
Right.
It's like, because they're great. Like, they complement each other in that they're such opposites. They're kind of yin and yang.
Exactly.
Which I think makes for a great pairing.
Yes.
So I'm very, very excited to see. I also like the description, devout yet heretically progressive.
Ugh.
Just the phrase heretically progressive is fantastic.
Right? This is
I'm
insane.
pretty sure that it was Joss that wrote that.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I remember I saw the funniest thing. It was an interview a while ago he did in a magazine, and someone asked him just like off the cuff, like, "Oh, who do you think would win in a fight, Buffy or Black Widow?" And anyone else would have been like, "Oh yeah, I think Widow's got the skill, Buffy's got the strength. I think Buffy would win." And he was like, "Yeah, you know what?" And just reeled off. I don't know if he took time to go and write, but from the way the interview was written, it seemed like he just kind of cracked out this amazing kind of 2-paragraph story about a fight between the two of them and how it would play out. It's like, how the hell do you just come up with that?
Right? Like on the spot.
I'm in awe of that.
Yeah.
It was a great little story. You could see it being like a little kind of 10 minutes, like a fan film, and it would be fantastic.
Right.
And he just knocked it up in a second. Genius.
Like he didn't even have to outline it. He just said it.
Really can't wait to see what we can do with these characters. This next character is one I think is going to be very, very fun. He's going to be another fan favourite. Ben Chaplin. His character is described as a big, gruff, and deeply moral. He's Detective Mundi, who trusts no one, least of all himself. Has a bit of a drink problem and quite the temper. Ben Chaplin has previously appeared in the quite quickly forgotten Legend of Tarzan, which came out and then no one watched, so it went away.
Right.
But he also starred in the criminally underrated British drama Mad Dogs, kind of comedy drama. Fantastic show. Like, if you can, get a hold of that and watch it to prepare yourself for this, because I think it's going to be he sounds like a very good character. I have a distinct suspicion it'll be that age-old story where he's a police officer. He's going to be investigating these strange occurrences. He'll find the touched, and then be like, oh, what are these people with powers? What the hell's going on? And then he'll become their ally, their man on the inside, kind of covering up their tracks when they do things that maybe are moral but not legal, and protecting them from the powers that be that will inevitably be baying for their blood.
Yeah, and that's such a fascinating conflict, that here's someone that is obviously a police officer, but then he comes in contact with these people that have powers, and what does that do to him? Because he could hate them, because he wants to be the person that, saves the day, or he works with them, or it could be a journey to reach that. So yeah, it's great that it could go either way. And I don't know why I love the concept of police officers in Victorian era. I mean, it's probably because of Sherlock.
I assume so, yeah.
I just love that aesthetic, and yeah, especially back in those times, they don't have the same resources that we do today, so it's more fun to follow police officers then than now, in my opinion. Now it's too easy.
Yeah, and they stress that he's a detective, so I'm really seeing him running the clues, big wall, stuff pinned to it, bits of string. He's going to be going all in to try and track down these strange occurrences, and then he'll stumble on the Nevers, probably find the orphanage and be like, what the hell's going on here? Yeah.
I love it.
I'm very excited for
that character. And I love that in his character description it says deeply moral, yet he drinks and is violent. That's really interesting too.
It's a very interesting duality that I think is going to make him either a very popular or very unpopular character.
Yes.
I can't see people. I see people having very strong opinions on him, and it's all going to depend on how he reacts when he eventually tracks down the Nevers. He's either going to be their greatest ally or possibly their worst foe. Although I have a distinct suspicion that their actual worst foe, and potentially the big bad of season 1, is this next character. Pip Torrens has the dubious honour of being the only person that comes up on IMDb when you type in Pip. But he will be playing Lord Massen, described as a staunch, unflappable, and merciless in his defence of the British Empire. A former general, now peer. Just everything about that says, I am in power. I like being in power. I don't want anyone else to be in power. I will kill you if I have to. I've done it before. And Pip Torrens, we've seen him before in Poldark, another period drama, and Preacher. He was also in Star Wars The Force Awakens. So he's one of the more seasoned actors in this show, and I think he would be a perfect pick for a potential big bad for season 1.
Yeah, and he's been in, of course I've only seen the first 2 episodes of Patrick Melrose, but he's in Patrick Melrose, The Crown. Yeah. He's also in War and Peace, so that's going to be fun to watch. He's also got it, like you said, he's in a lot of stuff, but he's also in Dorian Gray, which Ben Chaplin, who we just talked about, is also in Dorian Gray. I heard that film isn't that great, but I will probably watch it now just for them two.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So it just seems like he's... Oh, and he's also in a TV show called Death and Nightingales, which Anne Skelly was also in. So it seems like he's worked with at least 2 of the cast members already, which we always joke that
the third one further down the list.
Yes. Me and my friends always joke that the BBC has like 5 actors, so it makes sense that at least some of the cast members have worked together before, but that's pretty cool too.
And like, not only is it the big, he's not just a man, he's a former general, now peer. He's Lord Massen, like general of the British Empire, staunch, unflappable, and merciless. He basically sums up in one character everything that was wrong with Victorian England, personified. The only problem with that is, as I say it now, he almost seems too obvious of a choice. It almost feels like we're meant to hate him because he is so obviously dripping with evil. Would Joss be that obvious?
But knowing Joss, there's going to be something about him that isn't, you know?
Maybe it was some reason why he had to leave the army.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That could work. Okay.
Because you've
won me back over.
Because I don't think Joss has ever created an obvious one-dimensional villain.
True.
And I don't think they would spoil what that kind of twist is in a character description,
What if he's touched too?
I was literally just thinking that.
Great minds think alike. The reason he's so anti-everything is because he's like, no, we built the British Empire with guts and tea. I can't have this power coming in now and destroying everything.
Yeah.
Kind of self-loathing touch. It's a great character arc right there, in 3 words. Moving on, we have Zachary Momoh. I may have got that wrong. I'm sorry if I do. He will be playing Dr. Horatio Cousins, one of the few successful West Indian physicians in London. Married with a young son, Horatio's fortunes took a dark turn when he met Amalia and discovered his own abilities. The first male touched so far we've seen.
Yeah.
Zachary also doesn't have a huge portfolio, much like Anne Skelly. He's one of the younger actors in the Nevers, but he's in the upcoming 12th Night and the Netflix miniseries 7 Seconds. What I did notice, which intrigued me, is he's also produced and directed a few things before. It would be interesting to see if he was going to produce and possibly direct episodes of the Nevers as well. It's not uncommon for actors, especially once you reach the kind of 3rd, 4th season, to also direct an episode or 2. Maybe even I've seen a few where they've written episodes. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a turn directing. That could be a lot of fun.
And Joss always finds the perfect cast, and most of his cast, honestly, are unknowns at first. It's weird to think about now because they're all huge, but most of the time,
he gave a lot of people a lot of breaks.
Exactly. And I love his character description. Like you said, he's the first male of the Nevers, we're assuming. And it's interesting that he's married with a son, so we're really going to feel for him already because he has a family compared to some of the other characters. I'm not saying you need a family to feel for them. I'm just saying it's interesting that
of course
he does.
It adds a certain level of jeopardy to his arc that the others possibly don't have.
Exactly.
Which is always an interesting kind of angle to throw in.
Oh God, Joss! Now I'm already picturing like his family's gonna die.
I mean, I'd say probably 60% odds the wife doesn't make it to season 3.
That's pretty good.
I'd say maybe 10% chance the kid doesn't make it to the last season either. Because Joss is kind of mean, and HBO are super mean. Put them together, and yeah, like, I mean, don't get too attached to any of this cast, because at least one of them's not making it to the end of the series. It'd be interesting, seeing as he's a doctor that's got powers. Do you think his abilities will be kind of medicinal, shall we say, in nature? Do you think they're going to have the powers kind of echoing who the characters are, or do you think they'll throw a little juxtaposition in? For instance, you know, he's a doctor whose power is he can blow things up that he touches.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. Because part of me does want it to be the opposite. The other part of me loves this idea of a Victorian doctor having the power to heal people. It's almost like Dr. John Watson, but he's a superhero. So
that would be awesome.
That would be so cool. So
I'm not really sure which one I want more, but I kind of like I love both ideas. It's
right.
I have a distinct suspicion his power won't be medicinal, and because I have a distinct suspicion that the healing power will go to a character that's a little later in the list. Okay. Because Joss is an arsehole, and that's the kind of thing he'll do. I'll tell you the character when we get to them. Speaking of new characters, Amy Manson is playing a character simply known as Maladie. Great name. Committed by her husband and genuinely unstable, she's been warped by a power she can't understand and tortured by doctors intent on finding its source. No word yet on what those powers may be, but my betting is either telekinesis, telepathy, or the gift of prophecy. Amy Manson was seen before in Torchwood and the amazing and much missed Being Human. She was fantastic on. I'm very, very excited for that character because I'm very excited for that actress to be in this, especially playing the kind of tortured waif type character that she's playing. I think she's going to absolutely nail that, and it's going to be stupendous.
I feel like there's always, not always, but usually a character in Joss Whedon's works that is a little mentally not there, and I tend to absolutely love and obsess over those characters. So already, just by this list, she seems like she's gonna be my personal favorite. It sounds very River for me in the best way possible, and I'm here for it.
River mixed with a little bit of Drusilla.
Yes, and like, come on, if you say that, like, how could I not love that character?
That's a great combination. I can't fault you. But what I will note, so far we have 3 of what I'm assuming will form the core of the Nevers. And those characters are named True, Penance, and Maladie. Those are some loaded names. Like, those are not simple, easy names. Those are names that tell stories. And I cannot wait to hear the stories they tell. It's going to be awesome. I'm very much... And I'm already picturing some really... The fact that she's been kind of committed and sort of tested on by these doctors. I have a distinct suspicion she may not appear till the 2nd, maybe 3rd episode. Or she may not join the rest of the cast until later on in the series. And I'm seeing lots of, like, really grim, poorly lit doctor's surgeries with kind of uncovered hanging bulbs and bare marble tables and unspeakable implements. And this is HBO, so you know they're going to really lean into the horror. Next up, we have Rochelle Neal, who is playing Annie Carby, aka Bonfire. Annie is a career criminal who's landed the ability to control fire and is happy to hire it out. Will work for anyone, but trusts only herself. I'm thinking she's going to be kind of a not quite hero, not quite villain. Think kind of season 3 onwards Spike, or sort of 4 onwards Faith. Kind of not a full ally per se, but not totally an enemy either. Kind of works with the Nevers when she wants to, but isn't above blowing them up and running away with all the money. We saw Rochelle in episodes, which she was great in, and we will be seeing her soon in the possibly great, but probably a bit poo Terminator Dark Fate. I'm quite worried about. But I'm sure she'll be fantastic in it, so that's one good thing.
Again, really cool to cast someone that's up and coming. I even hate using the term unknowns because it is so hard as an actor to even land one big job. So the fact that she has, like, clearly she's amazing, you know. But again, they're casting people in such a huge thing, giving them a chance to show the world how great they are. And yeah, I mean, AKA Bonfire, like, how cool does this character sound?
I'm definitely with you. I like the idea that, you know, she's like this fire witch, and she's not, you know, particularly a nice character, but they make a point of specifying she's not cruel.
Yeah.
She's not a bad person. She's just been dealt a pretty shit hand so far, and is just trying to kind of power through with the tools she's been given. So I have a distinct suspicion she'll probably be more of a Spike arc than a Faith arc, in that she'll start out kind of clashing with the Nevers, but when she realizes that they've got her back and that they're not trying to screw her over, she'll slowly, pardon the pun, warm to them.
I love it.
I think she's going to I'm pretty sure I've said this now for every character so far, but I have a distinct suspicion Bonfire's going to have a great arc.
Yeah.
I'm here for Bonfire.
Yes, so am I.
That's going to be good. Another character I'm particularly excited for, as I am for all of them, Eleanor Tomlinson, who is playing Mary Brighton. Described as gentle but surprisingly resilient, Mary pursued her dreams of singing on stage. She will be great, but not how she expects. People will know Eleanor Thompson for playing the wife whose name I've just completely blanked on from Poldark. She was amazing in that show. She was the only reason I stuck with that show. Second Poldark alumni in the Nevers, and she's also going to be in the upcoming War of the Worlds, which just so happens to be another Victorian era set sci-fi.
Interesting.
So that could be quite interesting. But that's a mini-series, so it shouldn't step on any toes. But yeah, it's quite interesting. They are getting in a lot of actors that seem comfortable in both period dramas and sci-fi. Like, they're not fucking about with this casting.
Yeah.
They're not particularly going for huge names, but they're going for people that are proven to be good in the era and in the genre.
Yeah.
You can't fault that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And she was also in The Illusionist, Alice in Wonderland, and Colette recently with Keira Knightley. So, like you said, very much into that time period. And I always joke with my sister that there's just certain actors that look and feel like they should be in science fiction or genre type things. Like, I don't know why. I don't know if it's people's, like, facial structures or acting mannerisms or whatever it is, but it just seems like, not that actors get typecast per se, but something about them, maybe it's their energy, something about them just lends to the same type of genre in a good way. So it definitely seems like she's an example of this.
She's got a very kind of classic look to her. The moment I IMDb'd her, I saw the picture, I remember her now. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And I can 100% unfailingly see her as a gentle but surprisingly resilient singer in the Victorian era. I can picture her now on the stage. Like, I can see it in my mind's eye. It's going to be amazing, and she's going to absolutely kill that role. Because, it's playing perfectly into her wheelhouse, and it's going to be fantastic,
also,
and I love her.
I love that she's a singer. I mean, I'm a singer and a performer as well, so obviously I'm a little biased, but another part of her description, a disappointing career and a broken engagement haven't diminished her spirit. Like, if that's not feminist, I don't know what is. Like, I love that sentence. And she's going to be great, but she's going to be very surprised how. I love the idea of you have this dream your entire life, and then bad things happen, or it just doesn't come true like you thought it would, but that doesn't mean your life is over, and it doesn't mean something else won't come along in a way you won't even think about. And yeah, I don't know, just her arc already in this character description is very important to me, and I think it will speak to a lot of people, anyone that has like a dream and things aren't going the way they thought. And that's an amazing character. So
I'm getting very distinct Fred vibes from her description. Because think about Fred, like, she seemed so kind of gentle and waif-like, but there was pure steel in that backbone.
Yes.
Like, she survived in a demon dimension all on her own for all those years. Like, she was not someone to mess with, and I think I have a distinct suspicion the exact same is true of Ms. Mary Brighton. Oh, I don't know why, I get the feeling her powers will definitely be based around her voice. That's a given.
That'd be so cool.
The question is, will they go for the more kind of Black Bolt, Banshee-esque damaging screams? Or, my particular choice, is she going to be a siren? Kind of hypnotic singing?
Cool.
I know!
Oh.
It only occurred to me when I read that character description. The fact that they're saying that, like, she will be great, but not the way she expects. It's like, I don't know, I have a feeling that singing is clearly going to be important, but not as a singer. I think her powers will be based around her voice, which leads me to either destructive screams, but you can't really be great with destructive screams. Just ask the Inhumans show. But hypnotic speech and hypnotic singing, like, I could definitely see her achieving great things with that. And it's definitely going to be a lot of fun. There's so much you can do with that character.
Yes.
And I think she's definitely going to be kind of the flag wielder. Or that's not the right word. Flag bearer. That's the one. I think she's going to be kind of the flag bearer for the show. Kind of the... Yeah. Very much looking forward to her.
I love it.
Now, this next character, I didn't recognise the name until I IMDb'd. And I'm now so excited for this. Denis O'Hare. He will be playing Dr. Edmund Haig, a gifted American surgeon who uses his skills in the coldest, most brutal way possible. But it's all in the name of progress. Why, hello there, Dr. Frankenstein.
I know, right?
You may recognise the name Denis O'Hare, but if you're like me and you don't, he played Russell in True Blood, who was one of the standout characters in that show. He was absolutely fantastic, and based on the description for that character, I can see they're taking a very similar path, and he's perfect at that, and it's going to be so good. He was also more recently in This Is Us, which is a show I had to stop watching because I was dangerously dehydrated after every single freaking episode. My doctor told me I had to stop watching or start using a saline drip whenever I watched it.
Damn.
So I just stopped. Yeah, such a good show. But yeah, he is going to be... I have a feeling he's going to be possibly a kind of mid-boss type character. Not quite the big bad, but I think he'll be sort of the Loki to the Nevers Avengers. He'll be the reason they have to eventually come together and become a unit and take him down.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with Frankenstein. My sister and I used to have a Frankenstein podcast, but that's a whole other story. But I love the fact that he's an American surgeon. That's really interesting. Mm-hmm. That's an American surgeon in Victorian era London. That's fascinating. And again, already provides a lot of conflict. I wonder, if his style clashes with London doctors, or I don't know. That's really interesting.
The fact he's described as, like, uses his skills in the coldest, most brutal way possible. Like, it screams conflict.
Yes.
It's all in the name of progress. Nice. But I had a distinct suspicion with the two doctors. I was saying earlier with Horatio Cousins. I have a feeling he won't get the healing power. Because I just have a distinct suspicion that Dr. Edmund Haig might, and that the reason he's such an amazing, gifted surgeon is because he literally has magic hands. Yeah, but he kind of uses that for nefarious ends, kind of stitching people together in bits just to see if he can get them to come back to life. Do you think they'll be working in the same hospital?
I know, like, the fact that there's two doctors, like, they have to... Their arcs and their stories have to come together. And that would be awesome if they worked in the same hospital, because that's how he could even find out about the Nevers, and... Because Horatio is obviously involved with the Nevers, so that's how he could find out about them.
Definitely possible. I think that's a solid arc right there. Like, I would 100% be there for that.
Oh, so good.
So good. And yeah, he was just absolutely fantastic, borderline sociopathic as Russell in True Blood. If he can bring even half that kind of dark charisma to this, it's going to be amazing.
Yes. And I forget sometimes that True Blood was an HBO show, so I wonder if that had anything to do with this casting. But regardless, I'm really happy about it.
He's going to be a lot of fun. I have a feeling he'll be the character we all love to hate.
Yes.
Like, you want to hate him because he seems like a bit of a bastard, but at the same time, he's just, like, so cool. You sort of can't.
And again,
it's much like Russell in True Blood, or Eric in True Blood.
Exactly. And again, I'm here for all of these men that are villains, because it seems like a lot of the women characters are also not 100% heroes. So...
And now I'm afraid we come to our last casting for the day. But it is by every means the one I am the most excited for. Nick fucking Frost! Yes! He will be playing Declan Oren, aka the Beggar King. Described as charismatic and brutal, Declan runs, or has a piece of, most of the low-level criminal activity in the city. Nick Frost is most well known for his work with Simon Pegg on shows like Spaced, or movies like the amazing Cornetto trilogy.
Yes.
Most recently, he absolutely stole the show in AMC's Gone But Not Forgotten, Into the Badlands, which, while it wasn't Victorian, it was very steampunk. So I think it could still work quite... It's still kind of... It's close enough to how the Nevers will be thematically that it counts as experience. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of that actor. And I think this character will be a bit of a stretch for him, because he's the kind of funny, warm, sarcastic sidekick playing a charismatic yet brutal low-level crime boss. That's going to be a bit of a stretch, but I think it could be an absolute standout role for him.
Yeah, I've only seen him in the Cornetto trilogy, so I need to watch more of his work. I feel like Joss Whedon and Edgar Wright are really good friends, so maybe that's how this casting even came about. But I'm very happy about it because it's very surprising. Nick Frost just seems like a Whedon-y actor. Like, I'm surprised they haven't worked together before, and I'm also happy that there is a character like this, because I feel like he could help the Nevers if they need any information coming from the criminal underworld. So, plot-wise, that's a very good character to have.
I have a distinct suspicion he will be the character that first connects Amalia and Penance with Bonfire.
Yeah.
I mean, Bonfire, career criminal that can control fire. The Beggar King is going to know about that.
Exactly.
And I imagine when Amalia and Penance come and we need kind of be a bodyguard or a bit of information, and he's like, oh, well, I happen to know just the person.
Right.
My old friend Bonfire. She's awesome.
Right. And potentially even Maladie, because some of her description was she now lives underground, runs a gang, and is on an infamous murder spree, which sounds awesome. So
how did we skip over that ridiculously cool part when we were talking about her? My bad.
So I definitely think he could definitely connect Bonfire and Maladie as well to the Nevers. Very
much so. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
But yeah, I would have never guessed Nick Frost would be in this, so this is awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he went from Into the Badlands to Fighting With My Family, the biopic on Paige from WWE. And I assumed he would then lie low for a bit, but nope, he jumped straight into an ongoing Joss Whedon written and directed HBO sci-fi drama. Like, he's just scaling ever upwards. This is going to be huge for him, and I cannot wait, because he so deserves it. He was amazing in Into the Badlands, and I was so sad when that show got cancelled. But I will happily trade Into the Badlands for him being in the Nevers.
Oh, again, it just sounds like a dream, like him being in a Joss Whedon project, but it's this one, and it just, yeah, I mean, it might stretch his acting abilities, but I feel like it's going to happen to everyone here in the best way possible. So I'm really excited to see them be challenged. Like, that's a good thing. I feel like every actor wants to be challenged, so...
Definitely.
Yay, Nick Frost. So exciting.
Like, I absolutely lost it when it was confirmed that he was going to be in this show. I was like, yeah, oh my God. I had to immediately write up a blog for the website at hbotheNevers.com. Feel free to go and read it anytime. I've got to say, that is an absolutely ridiculous cast list. There's so many amazing names there. And obviously, when, I'm sure it was the same for you, Gina, when I first heard Joss Whedon making a new show, I was immediately hyped. Victorian sci-fi drama, sure, why not? Dial it up to 9, 10. But now, seeing the cast, like, there's so many shows that have had great casts but have been let down by shit writing, or have had great writing but have been let down by possibly slightly weak performances. But now to know that we've got Joss Whedon helming a show, it's on HBO, and we've got what looks to be an incredibly strong cast with proven period acting skills, proven sci-fi skills, proven drama, proven comedy, proven action. This show literally has everything required to be gold.
Yeah, if we ever had even an ounce of fear that it won't live up to our expectations, like, this just shattered them.
Oh yeah.
And not only
sure.
is the cast amazing, but all of the character descriptions are great. And I feel like the more villainy ones feel a little more one-dimensional, but I feel like that's going to be for a reason. And
yeah,
we're somehow
very much so.
We're somehow going to love them, like we always love Joss Whedon villains. So I am here for that. And I remember one of the writers saying that the villains are charismatic, so give me.
You've got to love a charismatic villain.
Yeah, because Joss...
Although I do find it quite interesting, the kind of the expected kind of borderline meme idea that you have all these American dramas, and then you have the token English guy that turns out to be the villain.
Yes.
And now you've got an American drama with an English cast and an American villain.
Yes.
Hey, we flipped it around.
Exactly. See,
although I still maintain that
the Nevers are already breaking down stereotypes.
Although, to be fair, we do still have Lord Massen, who I do believe will be the big villain of the series. But yeah, I'm more excited, to be honest. I think Massen will be the season villain, but I have a distinct suspicion Dr. Edmund Haig will be a recurring, far more memorable villain.
Yes, and I would... This probably won't happen, but I would also love if they somehow met or came together or something. They are very far removed from each other when it comes to their profession, so I don't know if that will happen, but that could also be something that's interesting.
To be fair, it's Victorian era. There's every chance he could be injured and then goes to the best surgeon in the city. And I mean, back in day, doctors were far better treated than they are today. So, I mean, a gifted American surgeon, he'd probably be quite rich. He could easily rub shoulders with peers. Massen's the money, and Haig is kind of the blade. Haig's the scalpel, and Massen's the hand holding it.
See, I just love the idea of villains working together. And I think Joss does that brilliantly. My favorite example is Angelus and Drusilla and kind of Spike. Spike obviously wasn't happy about it, but I just it kind of makes you care about them a little bit more because they have ties to someone else. I feel like these villains seem really strong though, so they might not need that, but I just would personally like to see that.
One trope I would really hope Whedon avoids, and he probably will because he tends to try and avoid these things, and except when he creates them, is in certain shows of a medium quality, you'll have the allies and the heroes and like the protagonists that are all best friends and work together and have amazing teamwork, and they're up against the villains that are equally as powerful and have matching skills, but are let down by their infighting and constant sniping at each other and lack of teamwork. And it's the whole kind of teamwork will win the day. It annoys me that it's always like that.
Yes.
I would much rather have what this could potentially be, kind of that our protagonists have a sort of shaky alliance through money and requirement, while our antagonists are more unified in their purpose. And then that way, that it won't just be a question of our teamwork will win the day. The protagonists will actually have to really work and dig deep and find something more to allow them to overcome the power and the teamwork of this seemingly unassailable villain kind of cooperative, which makes for a far better viewing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost the opposite of that trope. Like, if anything, the heroes are the ones that are maybe arguing or not coming together, but then the antagonists do. So that's
just a different spin on things, and that's always a good thing.
Yes. Oh, so many, we already have episode ideas and arc ideas and conflicts just by these character descriptions. So we already talked about the writer's room. They're phenomenal. Could you imagine just looking at these characters, what they came up with? It's going to be insane.
They've got a phenomenal writer's room, a phenomenal cast, amazing setting. I would love to sort of sit in on, even just on a script read, just to see the amazing chemistry between the writers and the cast.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
And there's so many articles of what is HBO's new Game of Thrones? And we've always said from the beginning of this podcast that it's easily the Nevers. But I hope people that have read the new articles today and that have listened to this podcast really start thinking about the fact that the Nevers is going to be the new Game of Thrones in the best way possible.
Hopefully slightly less problematic.
Yes.
As long as it's better than season 8, we're fine.
There you go.
I think this has all the potential to be, not just to be the next Game of Thrones or the next Buffy or, it's just Whedon's next project. I think it has everything required now to just be an amazing show in and of itself, standing on its own feet, not as the new HBO drama, not as the new Joss Whedon project, not as the next Game of Thrones, just as the Nevers, an entertainment juggernaut with amazing writing, a fantastic cast, hopefully some good special effects, because that would really kill things. And fingers crossed, little to no controversy, because that would not be good.
Yeah. And
I do love a little bit of controversy. just a squidge.
And so far, with everything we've talked about and everything we've seen so far, it seems like it will be its own thing. And one day people are going to be comparing this show what's going to be the new Nevers?
And I've got to say, while I'm sure we were all a little surprised to only see one Whedon alum join the Nevers, I do think that was actually quite a solid choice. Because it does sort of seem like he's trying to make this stand on its own. And having a fresh cast will definitely help with that.
And I completely agree. And I also think they could definitely have cameos.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So...
For sure.
Not all hope is lost.
Well, I still say one of Nathan Fillion's best roles was as the absolutely terrifying Caleb.
Oh my god, yes.
So I would love to see him. I'd love to see him and Alan Tudyk playing a kind of villainous duo.
Yes, please.
Just no jokes, no cracks, just pure evil start to inevitable end.
Why have I never thought of this, and why do I need this right now?
I know. Maybe throw Amy Acker in as well to
God.
finish the trio, kind of an unholy trinity. She's very underrated in her villainous acting skills. Everyone remembers, oh, she was so great as Fred, and she was really good as the mum whose name I've forgotten in The Gifted. But people forget how fantastic she was in the last season of Dollhouse. Oh shit, no, sorry. Fuck. I mean, that other thing she was in.
That's Illyria.
Yes, that's what I meant. Sorry. Angel, Illyria.
Actually, that gets me really excited to keep watching. I mean, I didn't need a reason to keep watching Dollhouse, but I am very intrigued.
I noticed something the other day. The length of time a Joss Whedon show runs is inversely proportional to how kind of not complex, but how kind of let's go with complex the show is. Like, Buffy was fantastic, landmark, groundbreaking show, but the concept is relatively simple. Girl fights monsters, 7 seasons, fantastic. Angel, slightly more complex. There's the whole kind of Wolfram and Hart thing comes in. It's still relatively simple, but there's a little bit of a twist to it. 4 seasons. Slightly more complex, slightly shorter run. Dollhouse. Sci-fi nonsense. People that have alternate personalities pasted over themselves. And there's a bit of kind of hints of the technological singularity in there. 2 seasons. Cowboys in space, and there's sort of aliens and government overwatch. 1 season, fuck you. Every time he tries to get a bit more kind of imaginative and a bit more, kind of every time he lets himself off the leash a little bit, the network seems to just reel him in a little bit stronger. And just looking at these character descriptions and looking at the world he's trying to create here, this is possibly, I just remembered the word I was looking for, thank God. This is possibly his most ambitious, which is the word I was searching for, his most ambitious show yet, which really worries me, because when Joss Whedon gets ambitious, networks get worried and they get trigger happy with their cancellations. Thankfully, HBO are legends and we're at least guaranteed 1 full season. That's locked in and we're fine with that. But I'm hoping that the network and the audience really kind of support this show, because this is ambition on screen. And we need to reward creators that get ambitious and try to push the envelope and try to give people things they haven't seen before, rather than, what we have now. He deserves a real, kind of unqualified win. Just no ifs, no buts, just pure Whedon win. And this could really be that. Sadly, we're going to have to wait till the end of next year to find out. So that's going to be a fun wait. But I think it's best we wrap up this special edition there, because we're reaching the point of rambling and it's getting a little bit crazy. But I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to the cast that we will hopefully be spending the next 5 or so years with, if not more. If you wish to hear more, you can find us at theneverspodcast.com. We can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. at HBO The Nevers. And you can find our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, all your usual podcast haunts. We're there, and we will be there every other week until The Nevers comes out, and then for the course of the season. I don't have social media because... Gina, I know you do though. Would you like to do your thing?
Yes, and I agree, social media is the worst, but my Twitter name is Gina Gemini, so it's spelled GinaGemeni. Feel free to tweet me, geek out about the Nevers, geek out about anything really. That's where to find me.
Social media is the definition of necessary evil. But we will call it there, and I will hopefully see you in about a week for the next episode of the Nevers Podcast. I don't know how to stop the recording. Oh, yeah, the button that says stop recording, that'll do it.
This episode of the Nevers Podcast was produced and edited by Matthew Yamanashi. We are more than just a podcast. We're a fan community. You can keep up to date on the Nevers and chat with other fans by visiting hbothenevers.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search HBO The Nevers, all one word, and click that follow button.